All right, guys, welcome to Trading with Meatball, and let's look at what works and what doesn't in the SPY. And this week and last week, we've seen a lot of chop. We also did videos about the volume, and you see the volume coming in at the last minute, last 5 minutes, right at the close there, and they've been doing it almost every day for like 5 days. I think 5 days, 6 days. We did videos on that, but they're gapping up and then chopping you to death during the day. And so we found what paid for us was waiting till later, and you can see the 10:30. Here's a nice run up about 1 o'clock. It starts, yeah, about 1 o'clock above the orange line. The orange line is the 20-day moving average, and we marked the opening print with a blue line. Blue line, thank you. And so as they dump at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then moved up at 1 o'clock, whatever. 10:30 was good. 11. We see trends in the afternoon and a lot of chop in the open, but the pattern has been the same. Green volume the last 5 minutes, and then a gap up followed by chop during the day. And then the same thing, volume and a gap up and a chop and a dump. And it retraced almost back up to where it was the previous day. So, I mean, it dumped, but it had strength and right along this trend line. What is that trend line? Well, we encourage you to draw your own lines and you can get good at it. You'd be surprised how good you are at it. And so we just draw lines, and you'd be amazed at what happens when you draw zones and lines and how the candlesticks react. And so this one here we had identified, and you can move that if you want to, but it came close here and showed strength, and it retests again where on the same line. So this point and this point are holding along with this point. And a lot of times you go backwards in time, you find answers. It lines up with this point. You can draw that backwards and see what it lines up with. And son of a bitch, a little wick off right there. Draw lines on charts, guys. It's not, the only tool in the toolbox. But when you're looking at the economic calendar, you're looking at Twitter, you're looking at volume, you're looking at order flow, whatever you're looking at, Transpider, whatever you're looking at, if it starts to make a move which you think is conducive to you taking a trade, and it's also wicking off a trend line that you drew, it gives you extreme confidence, and you doubt yourself less as you trust the charts and trade with them. One of the things we recommend is buying time, and so we do that on Rivian a lot. So let's look at her, and she's leveling off about 23.40 something, whatever. We made money with a Riot, and we were in the calls. We had identified the pattern, and it failed here. Okay, before it failed, we trade the 5 minute. We had posted for lots of people who just don't like our stuff on Twitter. Why we give them stuff, I don't know. But here's the pattern. We had identified it, and guys, it was making money over and over. And I took it again, and we put it in the Discord, and I even gave it to the guys on Twitter when it wicked off our trend line right here. And so that was an intraday play. And then obviously I'm looking for a rebound here, and got stopped out really fast as it again above our trend line and showing an uptick. It did not make it past the 90-day moving average, and it failed. Okay, now I was in QQQ puts, which we'll show you in a second, and then made money and saw that this wasn't going to stop. And I figured 15 would be the bottom, and I didn't hold it down there, but it sure made it. And I sold down here after the first retracement. I went ahead and sold as it was coming down here and took my 25% or whatever. I got in late and I still made good money, but we were in the queue. We can't be in all of the trades at all the time, but we took this one early and we took it twice. I bought it again during the dump and held for the second dump and sold into the second dump early, sold early too. Never claimed to be the master of holding for the whole thing. I sold and took my profits, watched the retracement, saw the volume was really low here on these green candles, and said that's a retracement because you can't see all this. You're in here. This is what you see. And so I see red, lots of red, and big volume. And then I look at the green. Down here is where I was looking at the green volume, much smaller than the red volume. And I looked at the price level, and I was like, okay, well, gosh, she's had such a run up. If you zoom out, it'd be easy for this thing to do a dump a little bit more. And so zooming out gives you some answers always. But yeah, we took that one twice, and we took the late Riot. And so the later trades are paying for me, guys. 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, the 2 o'clock surprise. And so you want to save some cash and stay away from the zero DTEs. Something you could do that's easy to buy time is lithium. And I love the lithium, and it makes money for us again and again. There's a pattern on the 15 minute. Let's give it to you. And there's your entry, and she's already there. Okay. Another one is Hood. You could buy calls for January 19th or something, and it failed out of the channel, and it failed our pattern. which had been repeating right along this trend line to go in on the hood, and she failed, much as the Riot. Now she stopped at this trend line, and sector wise, I think the sector's solid. So I'd say Riot and Hood have taken their fall and are good entry points now for us. Maybe not in the upper channel anymore, but the Riot and the Hood are not going to go away. And you'll see other stocks like that recovering. People say they've come up too far. Well, zoom out. It can go as far as it wants, guys. We don't control it. We just follow the trend, okay? And so on the SPY, zoom out to the 15-minute to spot trends so you're not stuck in the 1 minute or the 5 minute while you're trading, and draw your own lines, because when it starts to react off those in conjunction with other things like maybe Ripster's clouds or whatever footprint you're looking at, these things gives us the confidence to go in. And the QQQ was a banger twice, and I don't mind telling you I took a decent chunk the first trade because it was below the opening print and it was below the 20, and they'd been chopping us and moving it up, and it's Friday. I'm looking for someone's going to take profits, and sure enough we got lucky and we got a good chunk on the puts. Might have saved our whole week, I don't know, but that was a good one. And then we went in twice, right? And so go with the flow. If it's positive like it has been, I'm hesitant to go into puts. But when you're trading a 5 minute chart and you see a big dump like this, even though the sentiment is up and we think the Fed's going to pause rates and everything, when I'm on a 5 minute chart and I see two or three candles in a row going below the opening print, below the 20-day, these are puts, man. And you got to get in and take your 20, 30, 50% and get out, and this isn't chop. This is a good dump. This went on for an hour, hour and a half. And so don't be afraid to buy puts in an up market. Just don't hold them. And so that's why things like the lithium appeal to me. You can go out for a month and buy some time. This is the 15-minute we're going to pull up, and just sit back and let her fight her way through these zones. Okay. And it's very tightly held if you do your research on the fundamentals and the number of shares and things like that. And you can buy yourself a whole month's worth of time. And I've hit this two or three times, as I have the snap and the hood. And so buying time and staying away from the zero DTEs. The snap seems to be leveling off, guys. Okay. But the lithium, in my opinion, is the banger, and it hasn't let me down, because right now I think I have some calls. I'm down 20%. I'm not worried. I was up 20%. I elected to hold them because if you zoom out, they'll gap it up overnight, and there's not that many shares that trade. And so it gaps up. And then when it gaps up, I sell it. And so I've been holding the lithium calls for January. I've done it 3 or 4 times so far, at least. Probably more judging by the chart, but we hold those calls 2 or 3 or 4 days and then sell them. And you can do the math and watch when it ticks up 50 cents or a dollar overnight. I like this buying time and getting my 40, 50% or a double, which I did a double on one of these. The next gap here looks like 19 and then 20. And if you zoom out for possible resistance, you can go back and see where the zones came from. And the 19 is from 2021. Okay. And it's touched off that several times, but never gone through it. So as she goes through it again, obviously there will be a little disparity and struggle, but 19 is a big pop and she's touching into it and right in the middle of our channel, showing strength enough to stay in the channel. And so that tells me that you buy yourself a 30 days worth of time and just sit back and wait for a good up day. And she sure has them, because look at some of these upticks that we've gone through for 2 days at a time or one day, from 14 to 17 in a day. And so just sit back and wait on this one, but do your math on this, the fundamentals and how many shares and stuff. I found 104% of the shares were purchased and 85% were owned by institutions. And so this one's good. I'm holding her. All right, guys. I hope that helps somebody, and have a good week. All right. Yes, I share the whole screen. Yep.